Hi, this is Ruby Powers with Powers Law Group. It is Friday, October 26th at around 5 o'clock, so maybe you're coming on your way home or about to get off work soon. This is our weekly update of immigration news, and there's not a ton in immigration news per se, but there was a lot regarding a pro bono case that we took as a firm. That was a Texas Tribune article came out earlier this afternoon about a mother that was detained after being separated from her child at the border under the zero tolerance policy in May, and she was detained for 5 months. And this is the article: after ICE detained this migrant in Texas, her C-section scar ripped open and she was denied surgery for 4 months. This is our client that recently was released on Tuesday. I traveled with another immigrant advocate on Tuesday night all the way to Pearsall, so it's about a 4-hour drive from our office, and collected our client after Rice has paid the $9,000 bond. So I'm really grateful to all the volunteers, other advocates like Dion and the Migrant Center for Human Rights, other volunteer doctors, and my office. Cynthia Milian and Gabby worked on the case, law clerk Gabby, Del Castillo, and myself, and a lot of people in the office helped out in some way. But now she was reunited with her son last night in New York City, and we're so grateful for that. And this just brings to light the fact that zero tolerance policy still has an impact. There's still children detained, there's still parents detained, even though there's more children detained than parents. And many of the parents might have, if they haven't been reunited by now, probably already have been deported. And then just the trauma that they're going through, listening to their stories about, what they went through, not being able to communicate, and why this happened. So I was on Fox News on Wednesday night, Fox 26, the local channel, and so was the client telling her story. And so we want to highlight this case for many reasons. One, for the zero tolerance still making impact. Two, it was the domestic violence victim and matter of AB chipping away at asylum law. And the third key point is that she did have medical needs, and she didn't get that care until she had our firm coming up and helping her and putting her name on the case and advocating for her. And she did have surgery while she was detained and has now been healing from that. So we're very grateful for her being released this week and being with her family. In the news a lot this week has been the caravan. They keep talking about it, that there's a group of people that are coming primarily from Honduras all the way to the United States. And I think in anticipation of this, the White House is weighing an executive action or regulatory change to block a caravan from people coming. I think there's really no conclusive story that we can say today about what's going on. There's adding troops to the border. They're trying to think, the government trying to think of what they're going to do, if they're going to change something with the process, trying to maybe even take away asylum as an option. Ultimately, there may be people coming, but people still should have an opportunity to apply for asylum and we have a system for that, and we should not make that process even any more difficult than it already is. Many people do not have access, cannot afford attorneys, and are in detention facilities far away from legal help. Even this client that we helped, we didn't actually visit her in person until I picked her up from detention when she was bonded out. All of it was done over paper and phone, and with the help of other volunteers who got signatures, and were able to relay work with that. But that just takes a lot of effort, and that's the problem with places like Port Isabel, Carnes, Pearsall, Dilley, Tornillo. They're just so far away from the major cities where most of the immigration attorneys reside and work. So we're concerned about the caravan, and I think the way we should look at it is a large group of people planning to apply for asylum that are going to be needing advocacy in some shape or form. As for family separation, we're still seeing that, as mentioned with the case we have. A recent article came out that HHS admits a miscount left some migrant children stranded in custody. Trump administration failed to include at least 14 migrant children in this count of minors whom officials separated from their families at the border, which has left the overlooked children in HHS custody for months. For months. So the administration told the federal court late Thursday night. Even with the client that we were able to, when we started working on the case, the son was released and he had been detained for 4 months. So I'm not really shocked by this. I think a lot of children are still in custody a lot longer than they need to be, and I'm not really sure why. According to a recent report by ACLU, about 250 children are still in government custody. There's many children in custody, so it really comes down to in what capacity, as really true unaccompanied minors or under the Miss L class from the zero tolerance policy that happened this summer. Another point of news is there is a recent lawsuit challenging the legality of the USCIS's unlawful presence policy for FJs and Ms. That policy was announced, I believe, in July. It was effective, or I don't remember when, but it was supposed to become effective August 9th. And so this actual lawsuit, I was just taking a look at it, is pending. A complaint was filed in the U.S. District Court of the Middle District of North Carolina. So we'll see what happens with that. Yes, it was effective August 9th. There's also other things, another piece of news, the DHS submits plan to abide by the judge's order blocking the TPS terminations. So that means that TPS should still remain for those countries that were under the jurisdiction of that federal lawsuit, which were Sudan, El Salvador, Haiti, and Nicaragua. El Salvador is where 200 of the 300 or so thousand TPS applicants, that has the bulk of the number, the majority, and they were set to end in, I believe, September 2019. But under that federal lawsuit that happened recently, they should be able to continue beyond that. I would say for everybody with TPS, please have a plan B, because we do not know how long TPS will last. And so make sure that you do go get a consultation with an experienced immigration attorney to just have a plan, because a lot of times plans take a year or two to put in place. And you might even need to do a Freedom of Information Act request or some other background check, and that could take time as well. So just because you hear that you might continue, don't think that you can wait until the last minute to renew and that it'll be fine, because there could be a lot more changes in the near future, just like we've seen with DACA. In just the last year, there's been so many ups and downs with DACA. There was the federal judge imposes preliminary injunction to halt new agency policy on special immigrant juveniles. A magistrate judge, Cousins, granted the plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction, preventing USCIS from enacting a new policy limiting applications for special immigrant juvenile status. And then I think there was another case, plaintiffs on behalf of themselves and all other similarly situated individuals filed a lawsuit to protect immigrant children from the wrongful denial of their SIJS petitions. That's related to that. There's also the ACLU calls for a moratorium and files FOIA requests to DHS on facial recognition. On October 24th, the ACLU has called for a moratorium on use of facial recognition technology for immigration enforcement and law enforcement purposes until Congress and the public debate what, if any, uses of this technology should be permitted. They filed a FOIA request with DHS to demanding recordings related to the use of assessment of Amazon's recognition with REKOGNITION program and other facial recognition technology. These are latest actions come on the heels of a new report revealing Amazon has been pushing U.S. officials to purchase the company's facial recognition technology recognition. So I did see that in the news that Amazon was working to assist ICE. So I think in general we're still in the comment period for the public charge regulations and in the comment period for the Flora settlement regulations. The key point I've heard again recently is make sure if you do make a comment that there is at least 2 unique sentences and that even if you do use a prompt from someone else on what your opinion is, otherwise, if there's not two unique sentences of some sort, then they will reject it as a duplicate, and they are only looking at original comments, and that is important to note. And, you know, again, we mentioned the medical exam, I-693. There's a new policy starting November 1st that it'll be good for 2 years, as long as the doctor signed, the USCIS civil surgeon signed the form within 60 days of submission concurrently of the forms. So anyway, the gist of it is it'll be good for 2 years, starting November 1st, which will be helpful if you want to file it concurrently. The other thing to note is that we're in the early voting period right now, and it seems like a lot of people have been voting. That is great. You need to exercise your civic duty, and I feel it's your obligation to vote, so please make sure you do that. It's easier when it's early vote. I mean, we heard like on, was it Monday of this week, that in Harris County alone, it shattered all numbers they've ever seen in a midterm election for early voting. And, you know, just because you hear those numbers, don't say, oh, I don't need to vote. No, you still need to vote. But what it does mean is that on November 6th, all the people who didn't vote are probably going to go vote on that day. And it's going to be crazy, and there's going to be long lines like there have been in the past where people have to go buy pizza and wait for the people to, because as long as you're in line before the deadline, then you can still vote. But anyway, you've got to make sure, don't wait till the last minute. Just don't do it. Let's make sure. I'm going this weekend. I waited this weekend because I wanted my kids to go with me. So that's the reason why. So I haven't showed my little I voted sticker yet. That's the reason. And I'm going, and I'm also going to do all my research and everything before on everything, because, you know, when you get in there, there's a lot of decisions you have to make, and it's better to think about it before you go in. So we talked about voting. We talked about our case, that we're really grateful for Luz to getting to her son this week, and you know, hopefully let's all enjoy the nice weekend and weather. Be at my kids' carnival this weekend, and you know, get your pumpkin pictures. We got Halloween on Wednesday. The office is gonna dress up, so look forward to that photo. I might be somebody from The Incredibles. We'll see what happens. I haven't tried on. Actually, I don't even know where my costume is yet. Actually, I need to go check where that is. But anyway, okay, I'm going off on tangents. Feel free to give us a call at 713-589-2085. You know, whenever you want to talk to us. And we're also in New Jersey at 201-210-8240. This is Powers Law Group, a full-service immigration law firm, and we're here to give you the information of what's, you know, what pertains to you in your immigration news. Have a good weekend.